on, everyone? It's Justin, aka JSpit Trades, back with another video. In this video, we're going to discuss cybersecurity stocks. So we're going to look at the two primary cybersecurity ETFs. That's Cyber, which is what I have on the screen right now, and then we're also going to look at HACK. Then we're also going to take a look at a few of my favorite names within the group and talk about where the leadership is and what names in particular you should be focused on. So let's just jump right into it. First thing we're looking at, as mentioned, is Cyber. CIBR is the ticker. And you can see this is a really constructive, really clean chart. And what we have here is this big initial base, which we broke out and hit new all-time highs. Then we had a pullback and we came back down and retested the support level here, which dates back to March of 2022. And that built out a little base. And now what we're really building out, in my opinion, is just a big cup and handle pattern. Cup and handle patterns, if you don't know, are bullish patterns, and they typically resolve to the upside. And I really see no reason why this chart won't resolve to the upside and do exactly that. And I say that for a few reasons. One, the chart itself is bullish. Two, we're in a bullish environment, which is a lot of stocks resolving to the upside. And then the third reason would be when I look at a lot of individual stocks within the cybersecurity group, they're looking really good and constructive right now. So there's a lot of reasons to be bullish on this chart. And, when I look at right now, I think it's only a matter of time before we come up and retest those February highs. I think we could get there within the next few weeks, honestly, barring any major pullback at the index level. But, that's how I'm looking at this. And I think once we reclaim and take out those February highs, then I think could be off to the races just based off of this chart and how a lot of other individual names are setting up. So that's Cyber. Moving along, we have HACK. This is the other cybersecurity ETF or other main cybersecurity ETF. There's probably other ones, but these are the two that I focus on primarily. You can see this chart isn't as strong as Cyber. So HACK did build out a big base, a little messier, sloppier, but did have this big run up where we ran up and we tested those prior cycle highs, those late 2021 highs. We got rejected and we pulled back into support. So we pulled back into the March 2022 highs, and then we built out a little base there, or a little handle, and we recently broke out of that. So this has been strong the past few weeks since breaking out, and I think it's, again, only a matter of time before we come up and retest those February highs. So HACK is looking pretty solid. And then let's look at some individual names. I'm going to start with Zscaler. So Zscaler is not, the strongest name, but it's interesting. The past few weeks, when the topic of cybersecurity came up, I had a lot of people who would mention Zscaler or other names that had rallied a lot off the lows. And I get that there has been some strong performance in Zscaler lately, but what they were trying to tell me was that Zscaler might be a new leader. I don't think that's quite true. And yes, it's up. It was up 5% this past week, and then the week before that, it was up 7%. So it's made a nice move in the past few weeks, but it's still well off its well off its February highs and well off its prior cycle highs. So while I do think this chart is taking a turn for the best, it's starting to improve, and I think we could build out another base here, and it could eventually come up and retest those prior cycle highs. It has a lot more to prove, and so the jury's still out on Zscaler, and I wouldn't call it a leader by any stretch of the imagination. I think it has a ton of work to do, but it could get going, and it could very well be bottom. So that's Zscaler, ZS. Cloudflare is pretty similar. Big old base. Had this initial breakout, was looking pretty solid, and then we had a sharp reversal, and then we pulled back. We ultimately put in a higher low, so that's constructive. And then we've rallied hard the past several weeks, including 5% this past week. So, it's looking better and better, but again, I wouldn't call this a leader. And so this is not a name that I'm particularly interested in right now. OKTA, AKTA, is another name. I actually think this name is a little bit more interesting because you have this tight wedge pattern forming. You can see how the price action is starting to get tighter here. And this past week, we rallied up 3%, and we were able to reclaim that rising 10-week moving average. And so, this is essentially reaching decision point. It's the tighter this pattern gets, the more likely it is we're going to see a violent or an explosive break in one direction. And based off of everything I'm seeing, particularly the group strength, the fact that we're having more and more cybersecurity names join the party, I think this ultimately breaks out to the upside. So this could be a name that you might want to trade. I might watch it, might play with some calls or something. But as far as building out core positions in names, I still think you are better off sticking with the leaders. So let's look at some leading names. First name I want to start with is CrowdStrike. So CrowdStrike is arguably the strongest, best name within the group. You can see it built out this initial base and broke out to new all-time highs, well ahead of a lot of its competition or peers. And then since breaking out to new all-time highs, we pulled back and just built out a base. And we had this recent gap up, this explosive move higher when it was added to the S&P 500. So that was a nice little catalyst, and I think that'll be beneficial for CrowdStrike going forward. Just the flows that it will receive as being part of the S&P 500. And when we zoom in and look at the daily, we can see that it's just been trading tight within this very tight range for the past several weeks, and starting to look constructive and starting to get a little tighter. So I do think this ultimately resolves one way or another. And based off of everything I'm seeing, I think this resolves to the upside. So this could be a good opportunity to get involved with CrowdStrike here. Palo Alto, another leading name I want to discuss. You can see similar to CrowdStrike, this was one of the earlier names to break out and rally to new all-time highs. You can see it here. We actually broke out to new all-time highs in early 2023. And then, based above the prior all-time highs, had another big run up, and then a pullback back into support. You could see it pulled back into this level, tested here, tested here, and nice little area for institutions to get involved with this one again. And then the past several sessions, really this past week, we just traded within this tight bull flag pattern. So I think this ultimately resolves higher. And the first target I'm watching is just to fill the gap. So that's at about 359, 360. We're currently at 342 now. So that would be my initial target. But I have all the reason to believe that that's just the initial target. We ultimately head higher from here. And so beyond that, I would look at the all-time highs. So that's about 380. And then if we can take those out, this could really get going, maybe $400 in the coming months. So the Palo Alto looks really solid. CyberArk, another leading name within the group. Let me zoom out to the weekly to start so you can see what's going on here. So we had this big old base, broke out in late 2023. Didn't really have a retest, just kind of kept on moving. So that's impressive strength. And then we did pull back and came back down and tested this pivot level. That held a few times. We saw a buyer step in there. And now it looks like it's just building out a big old bull flag. And we're coming up to test the upper bounds of this range. So CyberArk's looking really good. This is CYBR, not to be confused with the Cybersecurity ETF, which has an I instead of a Y. Another name to keep a close eye on would be Checkpoint Software Solutions. This name is kind of moving on its own time schedule. Broke out in late 2023. Had a nice little run up, and then we did get the retest a few months later back in May, where we came back down and tested these March 2022 highs, and then rallied off that in the past few weeks. We've been really strong. Let me flip over to the weekly, actually. So you can see the past few weeks we've been really strong, and this actually closed at new all-time highs already. So this is looking really, really good here. One of the stronger names within the group. So definitely a name to keep an eye on. That's Checkpoint. And then the last name I want to discuss is a smaller name. This is Commvault Systems. I don't see a lot of people talking about this. This came up on one of my small cap scans a while back, and I've just been closely monitoring it. But you can see that the strength on this one is really notable, and it's just kind of detached itself from the rest of the group. So you can see we broke out to new all-time highs back in January of this year, and then just ripped, and it just haven't really given anything back. And then I drew this trend line on here because I thought this could act as a potential resistance. You can see it started here, got tested here, and then we were stuck below it for a little bit, but we ultimately broke out to the upside. The past few days, past couple sessions, we did pull back, so it's possible we come back down here and test this level. But I do like CVLT going forward a lot. I think it's an interesting name, and a name that could benefit a lot if we do, within the next few weeks or months, we do see large caps and mega caps take a pause, and we do see some rotation down the cap scale. This is a name that could keep running because it is much smaller than every other name we've discussed in the video so far. So yeah, that's it for my little discussion on cybersecurity stocks. Hope you liked the video. If you did, be sure to give it a like and subscribe. Put out content like this quite often. I'm definitely trying to do a lot more of it. And then also, if you want to comment, ways I can improve the channel or other things you'd like me to discuss, I'd appreciate that too. So take care.